Hi all, it's Tom from TNG Productions, and today we'll be delving into the competing factions in the wonderfully whimsical world of Moonstone. In this video we'll be looking at the stoic Commonwealth of humans and gnomes. The Commonwealth make for an ideal starting faction in Moonstone. Their approach to combat is generally to have higher numbers than their opponent and to brute force their way to victory. Whether this is through having higher wounds and outlasting them, or using a higher melee stat to outclass them in combat, the Commonwealth is happy to face an opponent head-on in many ways. On the side of aggression and melee prowess, the humans of Moonstone are unmatched in their abilities. Meanwhile, the gnomes can withstand all but the most brutal of attacks and still be able to fight back. Enjoy destroying all opposition in melee combat with overwhelming power? Enjoy having higher stats than your opponent and powerful passive abilities? Then the humans are probably for you. Generally the most straightforward to play, humans are a great place to start in Moonstone. With a higher number of wounds than most and often toting armour, they're fairly forgiving for newer players. They also rely on synergy a lot less than the other races. That isn't to say that they don't have it though. The starter set, for example, has Eric, who buffs several human nobles exceedingly well. While they generally tend to orientate to melee combat with models such as Baron von Fancy Hat and Fritz, the humans can also dip their toes into other areas of the game. When they do, they are generally straightforward and simple in method, such as Flintlock, who dabbles in ranged damage. Unlike other range models in Moonstone who require support to meet their full potential, Flintlock is happy to go without the support, perfectly self-sufficient with his long-range, high-damage gun. He will of course still enjoy simple buffs such as Quack's Foresight ability, but he's never reliant on them. When starting humans, it's hard to go wrong with the Barony, or the starter set. Baron von Fancy Hat is the quintessential human, boasting high stats and great passive abilities such as plate armor and a longsword. Flintlock is another great simplistic ranged damage dealer, and Eric is great at buffing and healing both of these models straightforwardly. Beyond this, the second box that you could go with is Tumbledown Street, adding another terrifying melee threat in Fritz, great energy manipulation and support with Agatha, and a generic healer that we all need with Quack. While the humans enjoy destroying all opposition in their path, the gnomes' head-on approach is generally to endure whatever the opponent can possibly throw their way with phenomenal resilience. As well as defensive passives and high wound counts, gnomes have all the energy skewed to the left of their wound bars. This means that although they generally don't have too much energy, it will usually be available even when they are badly wounded. The gnomes are also a little more reliant on positional synergies than the humans, with many passive abilities improving gnomes if they stay close to others. This can lead to a slow, methodical playstyle where a gnome troop will clump together and move slowly up the board as one. Another theme which generally helps with their sluggish movement is to focus on range damage with crossbows, bolt throwers, and traps galore. Most of these have ranges in excess of 10 inches, so the gnomes can wear down enemies at range before grabbing all the moonstones or finishing them off in melee. The main exception to this is the gnomes' Nordic brethren, who trade a little toughness and range damage for speed, allowing them to barrel into combat with amazing haste. In melee, the gnomes are no slouch either, but held back by an abundance of 1-inch melee stats. Overall, the gnomes are a well-rounded, tough faction, which usually need to play close to each other to perform to their full potential. The best box for starting gnomes is without doubt Mama's Boys. With Mama's Boys you get access to the head of the gnomish family, the centerpiece of all gnome lists, and their only healer with Mama Gimbal. With her, all gnomes nearby are tougher, better in melee, and more likely to hit with their arcane abilities. To complement Mama, the box also contains Quarrel, a very typical gnome. Although hampered by slow, he has a crossbow with an obscene 14-inch range and 2x damage profile. He's also not afraid to help his militia friends such as Billy with an active ability that buffs a model's melee and arcane abilities significantly. Speaking of militia, for a second box, Brothers in Arms provides even more for Quarrel to help. It also contains Graddock, who grants immunities to catastrophes to nearby gnomes and can help newer players with his abilities to give gnomes the edge during arcane actions. So that'll conclude this video and give you a brief overview of this faction. Please check out the other videos in this series to see what everybody else does, and let us know in the comments who you're most excited to play as. Be sure to check out the links in the description for more information on Moonstone, and I will see you in the next one.